Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to show you the basics of making a project in SDL Trados 2017. This video was made in April 2020. So let's open SDL Trados Studio 2017. I already have an icon here, or I could click in Windows and find it. So Trados opens up. What you see when Trados opens up normally depends on how you closed it. What we can see here is we have these different views: welcome, projects, files, reports, editor, translation memories. It's possible to start a project in several ways, but I think the easiest to remember is to click on Projects, because it's a project, and then come up here and click on New Project. You can also press Ctrl-N for New. Now the first screen talks about choosing a template. When we start using Trados, we don't know what templates are, so we just accept that default and we go on to the next screen. By the way, making a project involves going through a number of screens, as we're about to do. It's similar to making a project in MemoQ, except the screens in MemoQ are giving a name and choosing languages, selecting texts, selecting or making translation memories, and then selecting or making a term base or term bases. So here we're going to give it a name. Now you don't have to put the languages in the name, but I'm going to, just because I find then I don't get confused. And the only other setting I want to choose is source editing, if we find there's a mistake in the original text. So we go on to the next screen. In this screen we choose our source and target language. The default in Trados is English United States. Now English United Kingdom, which is the one we want, is the one above. That's kind of useful to remember that. And the language we want is Portuguese, Portugal. Please note that unlike MemoQ, you cannot choose just English, just Portuguese. You have to choose some kind of English. And trust me, there are many types of English, and some type of Portuguese, of which there are quite a lot as well. Okay, so we've got source language, target language. If you think, when you've looked at the project manager version of MemoQ, that looks a little bit like this. Next, we're going to add some files. So let me add these files. These files are a couple of Word files and a web page, an HTML file. Let's carry on. Now, translation memory. We can either create or use a memory. If we use, we have, also, this is also to choose automated translation, machine translation. And these are some machine translation providers. But we're not concerned with that today. For translation memories, they can either be located somewhere on a server or they can be on our computer. So if you already have a memory, you choose Use File-Based Translation Memory. We're going to create a translation memory on our computer. So we open this up and we just have to give a name. The languages are already selected. Note this is a little bit confusing. There are two browse buttons here. This is something much more advanced. To be honest, I don't know why it's not in a little button called Advanced Features. We just give the name. That's all we have to do. Give the name. There are other screens which we don't need. We just click on Finish. When it is finished, it says completed, and we click on Close. Notice that all these icons are automatic. So I beg your pardon, all these check boxes are automatically ticked. So that means it's ready for use. That means we look in it to see if there's anything of use. We can concordance, and update is another way of saying we will write to it. When we press Control Enter, we can update. Next, we're going to make a term base. Again, we can click on Use to select one we already have, or we can click on Create a new file-based template. This opens up a whole term-based wizard. Remember that there is a separate program called Multiterm, which can be bought separately, although it comes with Trados, for dealing with term bases. Let's go through this wizard. Next, we'll make a new term base from the beginning, from scratch. Let's give it a friendly name. So give it a name, choose the languages. Now, somewhat in contradiction to what I just said about translation memories, there is a tradition really with term bases that we tend not to choose a certain kind of English, a certain kind of Portuguese. We just do this. You can do that if you want. You can click on sub-languages and then you start to see the different kinds of English. But normally we don't do that. So we just select the languages. These are much more advanced features if you're going to create a much more sophisticated term base. We just click Next, Next, and then at the end we click on Finish. So just to remind you, what have we basically done? We've given it a name and we've chosen the languages, except I've kicked them out. I'll just have to do it again. By the way, my little tip for this is I click on Q because Portuguese is near the end of P. If you just click on P, well, you get it also, but anyway, there we are, we've got the two languages. And that's all we actually need to do. We click on Next, 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 Finish. And that will make our term base. Notice it's in bold. That means when we add terms, they will be added here. We could have other term bases. In Trados, you can only add terms to one term base at a time. Now we have some screens. We have a screen for perfect match, which we will just ignore. Project preparation. There's lots of batch tasks. Batch tasks in Trados are essentially what you do to a project before you start translating. If you like, in this case, they're preparation tasks. Although when we translate, we can do other batch tasks, which are tasks we do while we are translating. In this case, it means what shall we do to prepare? We will just use the default and click on Next. We can actually change some settings if we want. We don't. Next. As a tip, we know we're on the last or almost the last screen when we get to the green. Although we've had quite a lot of screens, just before I click on Finish, what have we actually done? We've given it a name, the project, we've chosen the languages, we've added the texts, we've made a translation memory, we've made a term base. Let's click on Finish. Now, Trados will go through these tasks. and we have an option to save the settings we chose as a template. But we won't do this today, we'll just click on Close. There we are, we have our project, which you can see we're in Project View. If I click on Temp EM, we can see that here are in the Files view the 3 files that we loaded. Let me click on one of them to translate. So we can see we have a view to translate, and this is called the editor. This is where we do the translating. Now, the good news is, just like MemoQ, it's Control-Enter to translate. We also have right-click, so we can do most of the common actions we want to do with a right-click. Notice also that the general layout of Trados is to have the source text, the target text, the status of the segment, confirm, not confirm, draft, and we have hits. If you like, translation results are divided into results from your translation memory and results from your term base. So if I put, for example, good and all into the term base, add new term, when I come back here, maybe I didn't do that correctly. Let me see. Okay. That's strange. Don't know why it's not showing here, but never mind. It's not the focus of this video. What I'd like to draw your attention to just before I finish this video is this text is an SDL file. What this means, it's a bilingual file. When you make a project, one of the batch tasks was to make the bilingual files. And if we clicked on File, Save, it will be saved somewhere. One thing I'd like to draw your attention to is if you click on File, Advanced Save, you can save a copy of this bilingual file, but you can decide, here it's in a studio project, but you could decide where you want to put this. If for some reason you wanted it in a different place, you could come here and put it here. It's important you know how to access SDL bilingual files. Also, if we imagine we've finished translating, the easiest way to save a translation file is to click on File, Save Target As. It will save it in the default location, which is whatever the project folder is, or wherever it is. But once again, you can choose to save it in somewhere you would prefer to save it. So in this case, it would be, you could put it here with the other text. Portuguese text. That's how you would make the target text. The other way you can, if you have translated all the files, another quick thing about Trados is you must save regularly. There is an automatic save, but unlike MemoQ, you could lose your work if you don't save. When you finish translating, you just click on File, Close, and that will take you back to the Files view. When you have finished the files, if you've translated all of them, another way to get the final translations is to click on what's called Finalize. Finalize will do two things. It will generate the target translations and it will update the translation memories. However, when you generate the target translations, it uses exactly the same names as the source, so it can get a bit confusing. What I strongly suggest at first is, when you've translated a text, go through and translate, and then at the end just click on File, Save, Target As, and then you can choose where to put the file. Okay, this was an introduction to the basics of making a project in Trados and a couple of other things. Thank you for watching the video.